Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies. Thank you to our podcast sponsor, Silicon Valley Bank.
Frank Gruber here with another podcast episode of the Startup of the Year podcast. I'm joined by Rich Malloy and Jen Consavo and Lori Teal. Hey everyone, how you guys doing today?
Hey.
Hello.
Doing great.
Good. Welcome back again for another fun episode. All right, so today we have, in our regular format, 5 startups we're going to talk about. But before we do that, let's jump in. Let's chat a little bit about this past week where we had a Super Bowl Sunday, if you will. What do you guys think?
A little boring. I'm just happy that my team won, but only because I'm from Maine and the closest thing we have to a team is the Patriots. But yeah, it was a little slow. I think we can all agree to that.
I was rooting for the referees. I was hoping that they would not completely screw up the game, and so they didn't. So congrats, my team won. The Zebras.
Perfect.
Go Zebras.
Go Zebras. Hey, and you know what else? This year the ads were, a little bit more. You saw a lot of media, right? Like a lot of media coming from Amazon to Netflix and all the kind of entertainment that's out there. It's definitely a war on content. So saw a lot of that. What are your guys' thoughts on the overall ads?
My favorite was still the Washington Post. I loved the ad they had at the end, really focused on journalists. I thought that was really poignant and really well done.
Yeah, that was a really powerful ad. They spent, was it $20 million or $10 million? $10 million for that ad. And you don't see that from newspaper companies that are turned into digital, media companies that often. So bravo on that. Definitely powerful. Bumble had an ad. If you guys saw that one with Serena Williams.
Yeah, that was really powerful.
Yeah, very powerful. And then any of them that make me cry are good ones,
Mm-hmm. I like the Alexa ad, the longer version of the Alexa ad with Harrison Ford, and his dog kept ordering dog food. That was pretty fun.
I missed that one.
Oh, they've got a shorter version too. He ends up with a crate of dog food. That the dog, every time the dog barks, he orders more food, basically. So pretty funny. But yeah, definitely a far cry from the 1999, 2000 Pets.com.
Today, I'm overseeing some deliveries for Pets.com, purely in an advisory role. I like your shorts. You're a good-looking fella. I hope they're home. Oh, wow, you cats hit the jack.
Do you guys remember that?
Sure do.
Can't forget it.
Yeah, it's a sock puppet.
It's so interesting because back then you would literally be waiting to see like what kind of company was advertising. And now it's so much more predictable. But on the other hand, I'm really happy to see that startups aren't wasting their precious capital on something so expensive and limited like a Super Bowl ad.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And so no Pets.com, no early stage companies jumping in with their $10 million of funding to throw down for Super Bowl. What did you guys think about the halftime show that everyone's not talking about?
Bring back Beyonce.
I just think I actually like Maroon 5. I know a lot of people don't, or maybe just didn't realize they still existed, but I do like them. But, they're in Atlanta. There's Jermaine Dupri in Atlanta, and there's, actually I saw a post by Arlen Hamilton, who from Backstage Capital, and she said they should have just done a So Def 25-year reunion, which is basically what it is in Atlanta, where they're based, and they could have had like amazing talent from the area, and they didn't, and instead
A little bit of a miss.
Little miss, yeah. They went safe. They've been going safe since Janet Jackson, and It's kind of crazy. Janet got in
Which
so much
I
trouble
actually
for that.
love. I don't know if many of you saw this, but Super Bowl Sunday has kind of been dubbed, Janet Jackson like Remembrance Day. Maybe that's not what it's called, but it's like honor Janet Jackson Day.
Yeah,
and
she's hilarious.
I'm all for that because they need to bring her back.
She didn't do anything wrong.
And give her a little bit of an apology and devote a halftime show to Janet Jackson because they've certainly done that with Justin Timberlake.
They could have finished it with Janet Jackson.
Yes.
As their final grand finale. And that's what Arlen had suggested. And I am totally in agreement because there's so much talent down in Atlanta in the music space. And they ended up going with the safe West Coast, a little bit more easy to manage kind of setup, I guess.
They did have Outkast. I mean, that's an Atlanta group.
True.
Right.
That's true.
So when they came on, I was like, oh, there we go. There's somebody from.
It was just Big Boy. It wasn't the whole crew, to be, totally frank, which I am.
Could you be somewhat frank?
I will. Well, you're kind of right, Rich. So that'd be okay. So anyway, let's get down to business here. We've got 5 companies, and we want to talk about kind of what they've been up to. And we're going to kick it off first with Rich. You're going to start with our company, 2Market, and it's 2market.farm if you're following along on the internet. Rich, do you want to share a little bit about what they're up to?
Absolutely. So 2Market is an app that connects chefs to farmers. And so with farm to table being all the rage, it's wonderful to get fresh food, but how do you get fresh food straight from the farm? It's not easy. And the farmers or the chefs that do the farm to table, they have teams that are responsible for going out and sourcing those, and they have their farmer relationships, but it's just not something that's done at scale. And this is something that has been tried a lot of different times. I've seen a number of startups through the years that have tried this. But what David Moosman is doing, I think he's got a really good chance at making this work. I'm really intrigued by the directions that he's going and the lessons that he's learned along the way. And so they make it super simple. They don't touch the food and they don't touch the money. It's just 50 cents per transaction. They've done over 1,300 orders. This was actually as of last month. They've done over 1,300 orders. They have recurring buyers and 400 accounts set up in their system. And this is just on their private beta. Now, one of the interesting things that there's a lot of interesting things about this, really. One of the stats that he throws out is that in 2017, $161 billion of food was wasted because it's easier for a farmer to throw away their food than try to navigate the whole process before the food rots away. So that was in 2017. That's $161 billion of food. So we're not unless you're in unless you're a farmer and you're in that business, you don't really have a feel for how much food is getting wasted and how much doesn't make it to market. So a little bit about David here that was not in the Daily Deal Flow email. I met David at Boomtown Boulder at the accelerator in Boulder. I saw him pitch at a couple of events in Boulder. And so he started out as an NFL lineman, and his caloric intake to maintain his weight was 13 to 15,000 calories a day. Right.
Wow.
His variable range is what the USDA recommends that most humans just eat on a daily basis. Right. Wow. Polar bears eat 12,000 calories a day. So NFL linemen eat more than polar bears. Right. Wow. And and he said at that point, he didn't care what it was. He just needed to eat it. And he was eating and drinking protein shakes and calorie shakes all the time. So he knows a thing or two about eating. And so then when he left the NFL, he became a chef. And so he was a chef in a farm-to-table restaurant and was really focused on sourcing good ingredients and knew what a pain it was. So he knows a thing or two about cooking. So he's got the eating and the cooking down. And he decided to set out to solve the problem that he was really passionate about, and that's reducing food waste, increasing farmers' income by giving them and by taking that fresh food and putting it on the tables so that anybody, whether you're an NFL lineman or a polar bear or a regular human, you can have access to fresh farm to table food. And last little note here, he's on his way to the Food Future Accelerator in New York City, and he's really excited about that.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow, it really painted a great picture of the founder too. And now I'm seeing like polar bears are dancing through my head as well, or swimming. I don't know why they swim.
They're graceful underwater.
They're very good. It's very cool. Does anybody want to add anything there? Have any questions?
I love that concept, and I'm one of those freaks about wasting food. So I just love this so much, and it's kind of all that perfect storm of all of his background experience, and now going to really build on that. I'm really excited about that company.
Laura, you want to add anything?
I just echo everything I grew up on a farm. My dad is a farmer, retired as an almond farmer. Definitely a long ways to go to prevent waste. And I love this idea, and I look forward to seeing and learning more about it.
Yep. Great. All right. Moving along. Our next company is based out of Boston. It's Magnamir. I think that's how you say it, Magnamir. And they basically are tackling this recyclables problem. So I don't know if you guys know, but 2% of all collected bottles are recycled back into bottles. So that's a very small percentage if you think about all the plastic bottles we use. And it's to the point of where, there's a great Pacific garbage patch that's accumulated out in the ocean, and it's, between Hawaii and California. And so things, there's a lot that can be done to kind of help make that number higher than 2%. And so what the team here did was this idea actually was born out of Babson College, which is known for its entrepreneurial program, MBA and entrepreneurial program. And they were working on it through the summer venture program, and it got funded by the Lewis Institute of Social Innovation at Babson. And ultimately, the idea here is that they're going to take magnets, which the part of Magnamir, and actually create a solution that packages a magnetized material around bottles and allows for them to take those same labels that you're already using and use, more or less create a magnetic surface that allows for sorting to happen more easily in these sorting plants. So if you can imagine a bottle with its regular label having some kind of magnetized glue or fixant to kind of allow it to have that magnetic property, but then allow you to then use a magnet to try to find the most relevant pieces of plastic while they're in a sorting facility. So it's definitely an interesting concept. I mean, the actual ink that they're using would basically have this ability to kind of coat the surface and create that magnetized coating. So they did this as well, not just with bottles, but if the plastic forks that we all get and throw away. Smaller items, present the biggest challenge because when you're in a sorting facility, they're the ones that kind of are tossed aside as they go after the bigger ones. And plastic cutlery is one of the main things that ends up in landfills. So the idea here is with even the cutlery is creating a plastic print that goes on the cutlery that allows for when they go through the facility, a magnet to pick them up and separate those recyclables more easily, and thus streamlining the process so they don't end up in the landfill. So they're really doing some interesting stuff to try to help save the planet. The founder, which his name is Ravish, I'm going to probably end up messing up his last name, but it's Kashmithia? Anyone want to back me up on that? Ravish? Okay. We'll go with it.
Magithia.
Magithia. Yeah. Magithia. He's a smart dude. He's got a background. He's a PhD in material sciences from Texas A&M. Before that, he was a chemical engineer. And then now he's an MBA and was one of the top MBA students out of Babson, which is one of the top MBA schools in the country. Prior to that, he worked at Intel in their R&D fab out in Hillsboro, which I actually visited before. It's pretty cool. They actually do some interesting research and development and also make chips out there. Anyway, he was out there for 4 years at the chip manufacturing processing area. So he has a background in the manufacturing side of things and how things work. And this was a Mass Challenge Gold Award winner. So they've got a lot of awards over the last short period of time that they've been in existence, and they're continuing to push ahead. So really think it's a cool product. I think the founder is super smart, and I think they're going to go a long way.
One of the interesting things about recycling facilities is that so much of the work is still manual, and they have to stop. Most recycling facilities have to stop the entire process twice a day just to pull plastic grocery bags or like plastic takeout bags out. Like, so I can't tell you how many of those machines I must have clogged before somebody finally corrected me and said, hey, those cheap, flimsy plastic, takeout bags or recycling bags are not recyclable.
Right.
Or excuse me, not recycling bags. The cheap plastic grocery bags are not recyclable. And they get the machines all caught up and wrecked and destroyed. So that whole industry, it's, in some is definitely ripe for innovation. And another interesting thing that I had heard along the way about the recycling business is that it's actually a really well-paying job to work in a sorting facility, a recycling facility. Like, I've heard wages out here in Colorado are around $30 to $35 an hour. $30 an hour to sit in a recycling facility and separate the crap that people think is recyclable, like used Starbucks cups, not recyclable. Right. And pull out, and then you dump your coffee cup with 2 ounces of liquid still in it, and it spills all over the cardboard. Now the cardboard's ruined. Pizza boxes not recycled, right? So, this is a constant problem, and it's expensive to go through and separate all that stuff, right? And so the idea that you could have a simple magnet and just use a different coating on the plastic bottle and just pull those out of the system like that, boy, it would save so much money. I think it's such a cool idea.
We're kind of in the early stages of trying to figure out how to solve these problems, and it is so manual, and that's unfortunate. And everyone's, every place you go now, there's the recycling options, but I think there needs to be education about what even is supposed to go in there. Like, I don't even know half the time what's supposed to go in which bin. Yeah. So I don't know. It's you end up throwing like most of it in the bin, and then that's going to end up in the plant, like you said, randomly trying to get sorted.
Oh, I was just going to say, to your point, I mean, our recycle bins, have pointers about what you should not put in them and what you should. And just last week I got schooled. I happened to be outside when our guys came by, and they already pre-sort even just when they pick up. Not school, but he was kind enough to say, no, on this one, on this one. So each time I kind of go, maybe I should just be out there and I'll learn and make sure I can help them as much as possible. So even when they come to pick it up, they're already sorting here where I live.
Right. No, that makes sense. So it's still very early, but they are getting looked at by, these different organizations like that I mentioned, and they're winning awards. So it's now just a matter of going after customers, raising a little bit, I think, to get where they need to go, or getting those customers to pay them to do this, and then go from there. So it is a minority founder as well. So that's kind of exciting. Right. And like I said, he's super smart.
I love people who who are excited about tackling these really big problems, but that are so, they're things that you would never think of. Right? Like, this is so in the weeds, and unless you sort of know a little bit about the process, you wouldn't ever think about it. And it's exciting to see people really digging in and trying to find solutions at this level.
I guess I should mention one more thing. Great point. They do have a patent pending technology that does this, that magnetizes the coating. It's called Design to Recycle, and it's been trademarked and everything. So they're already kind of moving down that route, which helps with defensibility, and obviously we'll continue to help them with a little bit of swagger as they go into those plants and try to get partnerships. Unless anybody has anything else, let's go on to the next company. It is Pix. Lori, share, what's Pix?
Pix. I had to arm wrestle this away from Frank because he loves his gear, but I know I love gear too. This is a very cool one. I actually got to meet this team at CES. They're a lot of fun, hence their backpacks. So this company was founded a couple of years ago, female founder, and it's think light bright, if you can remember back that far, and think on the back of a backpack. So it's a digital customizable backpack that you can program with your phone, and you can put hearts and stars, and you can choose from a library of graphics, or you can make your own. It's a lot of cool, fun things to do with the backpack. It also has even ability to play games on it. You can even turn it into a safety feature where you're riding a bike at home at night and have turn signals and stop motions on there. So many different ways this backpack can be not only safe but fun. I just picture a million of them at Coachella. Was my first thought because it's so much fun. So they developed it when looking at their site. They really wanted to make sure their creativity, and they shared a unique vision with the world and wanted to affect people's everyday lives. So their goal was to make sure that fun, customizable, and make it your own self-expression, really. There was a lot of cool videos you can go out and look at on YouTube. Creativity where you have 5 backpacks in a row spelling out something to what you can do as an impact with one backpack. So their team resides partly in Ukraine and China, but do have the product registered here in the U.S., and they've been doing fundraising on both Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and have started to go into production mode. So hopefully by next Coachella, you'll see these everywhere. And that's about it.
So it's definitely a novelty item, right? Like it's a smart animative, they call it, backpack. So you've got like the ability to interact with an app, which is kind of cool,
right.
And program like what you put on it. So I thought that was interesting. I guess the neatest or most interesting feature that I saw was their ability for you to use your phone when it's like synced up via Bluetooth and play Tetris on your backpack. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of got a little bit of fun gaming element there. They did knock their Indiegogo out of the park as far as their goal. They raised, was it $261K, which is 429% of their goal. So that was last October. Yeah. So obviously a lot of people like this backpack. I'm assuming they're going to do this and then come up with some other products, right?
That I don't know, but I mean, it's the first of the kind I've ever seen quite like that. So hopefully they continue along the path of great execution and make this, the cool thing that everybody, I mean, it serves all age ranges too, honestly. It doesn't have to just be for a youthful group. It's fun for fun for everyone.
Yeah. And you can use it for a street team. Like if you wanted to program, like, I don't know, some kind of like URL or advertising or something, you can have a bunch of people, hit the streets with them. It's got a lot of uses.
Advertise that you're looking for a job down the streets of New York. I mean, there's so many different ways you could use this backpack, because it's, again, back to self-expression, and you don't just say anything. You just put it program it in and put it on the back of your backpack and get going. So
there you go.
It's going to be interesting to see how, where you see it and where you come about it. I think there's going to be one on the back of Frank one of these days. I'm curious
maybe
what his first message will be, but
maybe if I was at Electric Daisy Carnival or something, but it's very along those same lines.
Or startup of the year,
There you go. All right. Any other thoughts? Okay. Next up, Formally. Let's hear it, Jen. What's going on with Formally.us?
So we're going from like, this really fun backpack to something that's like pretty serious and timely. Actually, it's fascinating. So we all know right now that immigration is a big issue in this country, and people seeking asylum. And Formally is really trying to tackle that issue. So they're at Formally.us, and they're all about making immigration and other related forms easy. So think about like a TurboTax for taxes, how it walks you through everything. It's kind of WYSIWYG. It breaks things down for you. Formally doing that on the immigration form side of things. They're making it not only sort of easy to walk through, they're explaining things, they're also translating it into different languages, and really breaking the whole process down for the person who has to ultimately answer all these questions. What's smart about their business is they're not necessarily just trying to go out direct to the customer, which, as you know, in most cases would be a very challenging thing to do. They're actually selling to the immigration lawyers and the organizations trying to help immigrants. So they're selling it to them. Those folks now get to save hours worth of time by letting the end user fill out this form in a very easy way, and then being able to take it and process it. So they're really breaking down this complex system and simplifying it for all the people who are involved.
So, the team itself is fascinating because they're based up in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm pretty sure they're all sort of just out of school. I think they're a group from Brown or in the area. Smart group. They're still in a private beta, so this is brand new, but I think it's super timely and it's really solving a big problem. In terms of fundraising, they're considering it right now. They've raised a little bit of sort of seed money on their own. They're thinking about raising, but they're not doing it quite yet. They've got a female founder and CEO. And I think they just went through an accelerator program and they're getting ready to launch. And it looks like they're going to be doing a really targeted launch program with specific organizations and law firms, which is always advised. It's one of those things that whenever we talk to young startups who are thinking about a startup or a launch strategy, it's like, go out and figure out who are those launch vehicles that can really get this out in the market for you. And that's exactly what this team is doing. They're partnering with the relevant organizations and having them already in place for their launch.
Definitely smart.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, again, what we said about some of these other companies, I think Magnomer and the farm to table one, I think it's just farm to market. It's, people tackling important issues of the day. And not that the backpack isn't amazing. We need those kinds of, we need those kinds of products too, right? And it has huge commercial potential, right? Yeah. Like something like the backpack could be enormous because of all the marketing potential.
Yeah. It's the same size backpack though.
But I love seeing people really looking at hairy, ugly problems and attacking them and trying to make a difference in the world.
Very descriptive way to put it. Thanks, Jen. Obviously, this is a hot button in the United States, which is where we're all located. So, yeah, I don't want to go too much down that rabbit hole, but
yeah, I'll say the thing about this is that they're not. It's not an end run around the rules. It's not. What it is just making the form something that a human could understand. And so the analogy that that Jen gave is
TurboTax.
TurboTax, thank you. TurboTax for filling out forms. I mean, think about how complicated the tax system is. The immigration system is just as complicated. And I can't concentrate with that on.
Thanks for the musical interlude. You went into some serious deep dive.
I think I'm being cued that it's time for me to get off stage. But the point is that no matter what no matter what side you stand on immigration, if you want to be tough on immigration, you want to be loose on immigration, whoever you are, it's hard for you to figure out how the heck to fill out a form, right? Mm-hmm. And so we need these forms to just help humans to go through the system in a fair way.
I agree, and I was just trying to help set the mood.
Oh, thanks. That was the Oscar music to start.
No, it was so dramatic. I thought we were talking about taxes and serious stuff. I wanted to make sure we,
set the tone.
The one last thing I want to mention about this that I really liked is that one of the ways they describe this is that the forms have built-in empathy. And I think that's really, really interesting because, of the topic, right? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of these people, they're seeking asylum these are very serious situations. Again, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, forms can be frustrating, especially in situations where these are life-changing decisions. Yeah. And for a form to literally have built-in empathy, I think is really interesting. So I like that a lot.
I like that too. That's really cool. Okay, so our last company is, and this is a team effort. I'm going to start it out, and everyone can kind of jump in. So we've been doing this thing on the Daily Deal Flow. If you're not familiar with Daily Deal Flow, go to startupofyear.com and you can subscribe by going to Global Network and looking at Daily Deal Flow. But basically, it's a newsletter we put out every weekday with a new startup. And so these companies we're reviewing are coming through that. And this last week we've been doing companies from Africa. And so the company that we're going to talk about in 1 second is a company from Africa as well. Or no, this is Nigeria, isn't it? Wait, I guess that is Africa.
Nigeria's in Africa.
Maybe we should talk about geography first, and then we'll start with Africa. No, so anyway, this company comes from Nigeria, which is part of Africa. Pretty sure. And basically, this is a company that would fit in that space. So the company's MedSafe, and kind of the name kind of speaks for itself as for what it does. But the problem they're trying to tackle is trying to make sure that medication is legitimate. So if you're in another country like Nigeria or the entire continent, you may have a problem in the drugs that you actually get prescribed might actually come from substandard drug. They actually may end up being they may be counterfeit, like to be honest. They could be not the right thing. So patients actually die from fake and substandard medication all over the world, but I guess it's a major problem in Nigeria where 70% of the medications are imported into the country. So due to the fact that there's, they don't have the same infrastructure as other places, you're seeing a lot of imposter drugs, which are causing people to die. So I guess this, obviously a very serious problem. I guess it's a big problem, and MedSafe is tackling that problem by creating a supply chain tool that tracks and traces, all the different pieces of medication, so that the things that you're getting are real. So that's pretty serious. Yeah. And I think they've gotten some traction. They're a female founder and a minority founder. So love that. And they're kind of in this alpha public stage right now. They may consider some funding here soon, and they're starting to look at partnerships with different distribution partners. Pharmaceutical companies, health insurance companies in Africa, hospitals. They've had 400 hospitals and pharmacies sign up to use MedSafe technology, or service. So that's pretty cool. So pretty interesting. They're tackling a big problem in Nigeria. They've gotten some awards for it. Their founder, Vivian, won Best Female Founder. It's one of the best female founded companies from Seed Stars World Competition. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. At our startup of the year 2018, we actually had a company who was tackling a similar problem. Their founder was from China, and again, very similar. They have issues with counterfeit drugs, and one of his best friends had died from taking counterfeit medication, and he's now in the U.S. I think he's in a Techstars program, and he's tackling the same issue, trying to really make sure that drugs are legitimate, that they're tested, that we know that the drug we're taking is the highest quality it can be, and that it's from the right source. And it's a problem around the globe. And so it's fantastic to see her leading the charge in Nigeria, and kudos to her. I hope she can bring this out to wherever it's needed. This is a type of thing that really needs to be scaled and brought everywhere.
Sounds like they're doing a good job with partnerships if they've got all those hospitals and pharmacies signing up, and obviously understand the importance of that. So I think they're on the right track. And obviously this is a serious thing they're tackling. So I'm pretty impressed that they identified it and are going after it pretty hard. So
I think what people don't realize too, though, is that this is global. Just recently there was a story about how in the U.S. alone, so many companies are, when they do get audited, are found to have traces of whatever shouldn't be in our medicine, and yet still continuing to do business. Right. And so they get a slap on the hand. But overall, I think the entire industry needs to be looked at as far as the safety for all of us. And it's just not talked about a lot. But when I recently was listening to that story, it really woke me up about just even in our own backyard here. You go to the CVS or down the street or wherever, and you think you're, getting that your medication is safe, but there's producers of drugs all over the U.S. there needs to be better monitoring and better systems in place to make sure we are for sure having safe medication delivered to us and our bodies.
And Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we also had another startup that was part of our Startup of the Year 2018, whose company was focused on helping pharmacies actually verify what they were giving out.
We had ValueSure and Veripad. Those were the two you're talking about.
Yes. Thank you for remembering those names.
No
because I'll never forget these founders, because their stories are so personal, because they know people who have been affected, as you said, Lori, like whether it's in China or right in our backyard, and they know it's a serious problem and they're really trying to tackle it.
Well, the reason this story got highlighted recently in the U.S. was because it was a young infant that they couldn't figure out why he wasn't getting better, and it turned out the medication was tainted, and that's when a deeper research went into, what the heck is going on with the medications being distributed. So definitely something to keep your eye on and just to be aware of, and support those efforts. It's really important for all of us.
And I think it'd be interesting to see on vitamins too. I don't think there's as much, much of an eye on that space, vitamins. And now you're seeing a lot more like CBD oils and
probiotics,
things like probiotics everywhere. So I'd love to be able to see some of this stuff go into like more mainstream products as well, just to know what you're getting.
Yes.
So,
okay. It looks like. Oh, go ahead, Rich.
I was just going to bring it back to the startup here and talk a little bit more about MedSafe, and just a little bit about Vivian. She actually was born and raised in Illinois, and she went to University of Illinois, got her master's at Georgia State University. She also got a master's in Paris in international business, and at the same time, I think it was a joint program. And so this is an American with an incredible background who sees the problem and what could be done, and sees an opportunity to go out and make a change in the world. And I'm sorry, I don't know if she was born in the U.S. I know that she was that she went to school in the U.S. But just absolutely fascinating that is able to build a business around this using the technologies and the resources that we have here to apply them to problems that exist everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I love that, and love that she's went to Illinois. I'm from Illinois, so I always love to find other Illini. I didn't go to University of Illinois, but still I pull for Illinois. All right, great, thanks, Rich. And let's talk about picks again, because because it leaves us on a high note. Not that this isn't, but we can talk about what would you put on that picks.
I probably would put my doggy.
Yeah, you could get your dog on the back.
It really can depend on just where you are and what you're doing. And that's the cool part about it.
Yeah,
very cool.
Am I in a Metroid mood? Maybe I just have Metroid rolling across and then occasionally pop up.
Yeah,
that's what I'm feeling right now.
It'd be interesting to see what people do with it, like an open community of like.
I'll tell you, on Sunday I would have had the Rams on it. Just
we know
the underdog.
We know what our other folks thought about that. All right, so we've got some Start of the Year action happening soon. We're going down to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest. That's the big festival that has an interactive section. We've been going down there for about a decade now. We've got a big event we're producing for Startup of the Year. We've got a Startup of the Year house at South by Southwest. It's going to be Sunday, March 10th at Maggie Mae's. So if you're in Austin, Texas, come hang out with us, see some great startups. We're going to have a bunch, 25 to 30 companies showcasing. There's a whole pitch competition aspect to it. There'll be a lot of great people coming through. So lots of excitement. You want to find out more about it, go to startupofyear.com. There's the application if you're going to apply for Startup of the Year, but there's also more information there too. All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining again. Startup of the Year podcast. This is episode 3. We're signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode soon.